Way back in episode 57 of the Random Trade Review, we talked about how in 2004 Archie Comics attempted to punch up their Sabrina the Teenage Witch series with a storyline that drew inspiration from the Japanese comic storytelling format of manga, which was undergoing a popularity boom at the time. The story saw Sabrina Spellman continue to navigate high school in the small town of Greendale while living with her aunts Hilda and Zelda and trying to keep the Spellman family secret of being magically gifted in check. Sabrina also sought out longtime romantic fulfillment with love interest Harvey Kinkle. However, Sabrina would also journey to the magic realm during the week for magic charm school, where she would work to get her magic license alongside friends Lilandra da Silva, who also lived in Greendale but attended a different high school, and Shinji Agami, a potential love interest who purposely transfers to Greendale High in order to woo Sabrina. Because of course there's a Shinji in it. Shinji would clash with Harvey over Sabrina's affections until bonding with the young man on a skiing trip and helping Harvey and Sabrina finally get together, while Shinji began a relationship with Lilandra, who had long held an unrequited crush on him. The funny part being that Shinji and Lilandra tend to be a much more successful couple than Harvey and Sabrina are. Now there's a few other storytelling elements, but we'll touch on that as we go through the episode. But the main thing to remember is snowstorm equals sleepover. Also, while that first volume was collected in color, each subsequent volume has been done in grayscale for some reason, and I'll get into my thoughts on that at the end of the episode. But for now, let's start Volume 2 of the Sabrina the Teenage Witch manga. It's here, the last day of the school year before summer, and Sabrina is so excited that she almost pulls a Millhouse.
School's out! Up yours, Crabapple!
After the actual final school bell, Sabrina immediately begins making plans with Harvey, only to be shot down as it turns out he'll be visiting relatives most of the summer and his family is leaving early the next morning. This leaves Sabrina with only two options, be a third wheel with Shinji and Lilandra, or take an internship at the Magic Council office where Hilda works. And that means lots, and lots, and lots of filing. However, there appears to be an extra benefit as the leader of the entire magic realm, Queen Celis, has unexpectedly invited Sabrina to a regular lunch where she asks the young girl to constantly perform spells learned in charm school. Every day, Sabrina eagerly waits for some type of message from Harvey, but never really gets one. Thankfully, on the last day of her internship, Lilandra invites Sabrina to join her and her family as well as Shinji for a weekend at the Da Silva family beach house. It's a big holiday weekend and there's fun to be had. The holiday in question is called Four Blades Day, and it celebrates the Quashimba Rebellion led by the titular Four Blades. The Four Blades were subsequently banished after their losing, or so everyone has been led to believe. In fact, much of Sabrina's internship has actually been approving permits for vendors to sell things during the Four Blades Day festivities. Yes, this will prove important as things play out. Sabrina and Lilandra can't help but notice that Shinji doesn't seem too enthusiastic about any of the celebrations going on. Things begin to get weirder as that night Sabrina awakens to the sight of somnambulistic Shinji cliff diving. It's due to the song of a siren who soon has Shinji in her clutches. Sabrina leaps into the water and manages to transform the sound waves of the siren's crawls into a cage. Sabrina then manages to pull Shinji to safety where she notices something on his chest. He has the symbol of the Four Blades tattooed into it. Yes, there was a storyline in the first volume that involved Shinji becoming a model in the Earth Realm. However, he wound up dropping the gig when they asked him to pose shirtless. Now you know why. Before anything else can happen, Shinji awakens and kisses Sabrina before going back to sleep. This sends a hurt and very confused Sabrina running back to the beach house. The next day, Shinji remembers the encounter with the siren, but believes it was a mermaid that saved him. Still, Lilandra isn't pleased that another woman has seemingly popped up. Once more, Shinji excuses himself from further Four Blades Day activities. A further wrinkle pops up when Hilda comes to Sabrina with a problem. The actress for the Four Blades play has fallen ill, and Queen Celis has personally selected Sabrina to be the replacement. Since the order is from the Queen, she can't really turn it down. The cast of the play does not welcome Sabrina with open arms, and it doesn't help that she just can't seem to remember her lines, though it might have something to do with her hunky leading man named Hansel Wolf. Thankfully, it turns out that Hansel is a total jerk, which helps her work harder at her lines. She even tries turning to Shinji for help, only to be angrily stonewalled as he says no one ever understands this holiday. Still, the next day, the play begins, and despite an early flub and a bizarre ad-libbed kiss from Hansel, Sabrina manages to nail most of her lines. While accepting a standing ovation, Sabrina notices Shinji in the crowd, tears flowing from his eyes. Sadly, the joy for Sabrina is short-lived, as she receives a letter from Harvey, a Dear Jane letter. Wow! What a dick! Soon the Earthrealm school year is about to start and Sabrina must enter Greendale High officially as an ex-girlfriend. Harvey tries to keep things friendly, but surprisingly enough, she's not really in the mood. However, she's too chicken to really call him out on any of this. Shinji, on the other hand, is more than willing to confront Harvey, especially since he stepped aside to allow him to date Sabrina. Harvey tries to explain that he just got overly anxious about being in a relationship and just wanted to go back to being friends again for a short while. This doesn't prove to be too convincing for Shinji, who just leaves. However, Amy Reinhardt soon swoops in to make Harvey an offer.
Amy Reinhardt is an ultra-popular girl at Greendale High who is also chased after Harvey Kinkle's romantic affections. She's not the only one. Not only has Sabrina done it, but in the previous volume we also dealt with another cheerleader named Libby Chesler.
Amy is willing to coach Harvey at being a better boyfriend by being his new girlfriend. Soon the two are the talk of the school, and Sabrina is further depressed. Shinji tries to pick up Sabrina's spirits, pointing out that the Magic Realm Spelling Bee is coming up, with the prize being a whole bunch of old-timey spell books. This gets overheard by Harvey, who assumes that Sabrina is entering the Greendale High Spelling Bee. It's enough to make Sabrina think that she could win Harvey back by winning that bee instead. Sabrina goes to visit her friend Gwen to help prepare for the spelling bee, but there's kind of a problem. Gwen is already competing in the bee along with the rest of the spelling club, so yeah, Sabrina's entirely on her own here.
Gwen Ricci is a student at Greendale High who Sabrina also thought might be a witch. However, it turned out that Gwen's quirky pumpkin had been possessed by the spirit of a defrocked wizard named Corwin, who was in fact the rival of Salem Saberhagen, another defrocked wizard who was now trapped in the form of Sabrina's cat. Eventually, Corwin was exorcised from Pumpkin's body, however this left Pumpkin with the residual ability to speak. Added to that, Gwen was supposed to have her mind wipe after this experience, however Sabrina elected not to do it in order to have another friend who knew her secret.
Both competitions are being held within a day of each other. This contributes to Sabrina having very amped up nerves as she enters into the magic spelling bee, which consists of performing various magic spells. Sabrina manages to impress the judges with her coordination and her knowledge of spells that were previously thought unlearnable. She soon finds herself in the finals against none other than Hansel Wolf. The finals call for the use of an elemental avatar, Salamander for fire, Sylphian for air, or Undine for water. Sabrina summons an Undine which quashes Hansel's Salamander, by turning the firebomb attack into water bombs, a trick never thought possible by the judges and which catches the eye of Queen Celis. Sabrina wins and is rewarded not only with the old spell books, but also a trip for her and a friend who turns out to be with Landra to the island of Silphanari to learn further magic with Queen Celis. None of this ends up helping out Sabrina at all during the Greendale High Spelling Bee, as she gets limited in the first round after failing to spell Soliloquy. Harvey is still proud of her for trying, but he's soon pulled away by Amy.
Then again, what kind of high school hosts a spelling bee? I mean, spelling bees are usually more of a late elementary, early middle school type event.
Still, Sabrina and Lilandra have their trip to Silphanari to look forward to, and the only drawback is that they also have to study for their ACTs, which are being taken immediately after that trip. So they elect to invite Shinji over for a little cram session, and when he arrives, Lilandra can't help but notice the strawberry lip gloss on Shinji's broom, which is the special item that helps power it to fly. Not wanting to explain that the lip gloss is special because Sabrina gave it to him, Shinji tries to confuse lip gloss with lip balm and just says that he needs it in order to prevent his lips from getting chapped. The studying doesn't go over too well, mainly because Shinji doesn't really care about trying to get into any colleges. The next day, Sabrina and Lilandra head to the floating island of Silphanari, where they expect to be greeted by Queen Celis and several royal servants. All they find is a resort in total disarray, and further inspection leads the girls to the area of the Mana Tree, the source of all magic in the realm. Along the way, Lilandra spots Sabrina's lip gloss and pieces together where Shinji's special item came from. None of that matters, however, when the two notice leaves falling from the Mana Tree, which shouldn't be happening as the Mana Tree is supposed to be immortal. Sabrina immediately wants to tell her Aunt Hilda because if the tree dies, so would all magic, but Lilandra cautions against it, citing the panic it would cause. More research needs to be done, but the girls can't focus on it for too long as the next day comes and they must prepare to take their ACT test.
While these events were playing out, Queen Celis was actually in her library looking up information on the elemental transformation spell that Sabrina performed during the finals of the Spelling Bee. It was thought to have been impossible, that's why it's intrigued her so much. However, this is all halted by some type of unseen force which tells Queen Celis to stay in her place.
A few weeks later, and the test results are in, with Sabrina getting an average score and no career match. Harvey tries to cheer her up, only for Amy to take him away by pointing out that he's not allowed to be with other women yet. It doesn't matter though, as Harvey needs to head home, as his parents are out of town and he needs to look over the house for a while. But you know what that means.
We make
Against Harvey's better judgment, Amy immediately begins planning a shindig and purposely not inviting Sabrina. For some reason, though, Shinji and Lilandra get invited and talk Sabrina into coming along by using a magical disguise named Krista. Sabrina notices that Harvey isn't enjoying the party or the mess that it's making. A few magic pranks scare away the troublemakers, and soon Amy is calling for a game of truth or dare.
Again, that's more of a middle school thing. High schoolers really don't do truth or dare.
The game falls apart when Lilandra dares Krista, aka Sabrina, to kiss Harvey, which just makes Amy get angry and everything else stupid. Amy and everyone else leaves, leaving Harvey to pick up the mess. However, Krista, aka Sabrina, Shinji, and Lilandra stay behind to help cheer Harvey up and show him what true friends really are. Amy carries the grudge all the way to Valentine's Day and the idea for a fundraiser to help the school pay for some new computers. The class settles on the idea of a date auction with several female members flocking to Shinji. Alas, he's already spoken for. Things are still really tough for Sabrina right now, though. Last Valentine's Day was when she and Harvey finally became a couple. Salem tries to cheer up Sabrina by pointing out this could provide an opportunity to meet someone new. Likewise, Sabrina and Lilandra go shopping for dating outfits, as Valentine's Day is also Lilandra's first anniversary with Shinji. The auction arrives and Sabrina attempts to win Harvey, only to be outbid by Amy. When it's her turn, hardly anyone bids on Sabrina until Shinji puts up $100. Shinji promises a short date before his big anniversary dinner with Lilandra. It seems the idea of being with a girl for a year has gotten to Shinji, as he avoids talking about Lilandra during games of air hockey and mini golf with Sabrina. The two wind up having a lot of fun, and at Shinji's insistence, it all ends with a kiss, just as Lilandra arrives.
Wow! What a dick!
We are not privy to Lilandra's reaction, but Sabrina knows that the two are now on the outs. Salem provides a little comfort and Sabrina wallows in her bedroom. If there's any silver lining to any of this, it's that the auction did raise enough money to purchase the equipment for a web design class to begin. The class is split into groups of 4, with Sabrina getting into a group with Shinji, Harvey, and a girl named Penelope who's really into Harvey. The group's first assignment is to interview each other to provide biographies for a class website. Given recent events, though, that's going to be easier said than done, as the only one who really wants to talk is Penelope, and that's only with Harvey. Added to that, Shinji keeps mucking things up by dropping hints about the magic realm. The problem is neither he or Sabrina really want into details about their pasts. Later, the two talk over the phone, with Shinji admitting they spoke with Lilandra and took full blame for everything. That being said, Lilandra still will not talk at all with Sabrina. Shinji and Sabrina then go about trying to dig up information on each other. Him by going to Hilda and Zelda, and her by going to the Magic Realm records accounts. Funny thing though, Shinji and his brother Kenichi are both listed as being deceased. Sabrina tries to dig back into older records and winds up in a room marked retired tomes. It's then that she turns up the true lineage of the Agami clan.
Okay, technically this happened earlier in the volume, but I wanted to wait until now to talk about it. Shinji's parents, Koji and Hana, were in fact 2 of the founding members of the Four Blades. This happened after Shinji's father happened to turn up some information that Queen Celis did not want getting out. However, unlike what the Queen claimed, the 2 were not banished. Instead, they were rounded up and executed, while Shinji and his older brother Kenichi went into hiding to live off the magical grid for a while.
Shortly after turning up Shinji's backstory, Sabrina is caught by the librarian, who explains that the room is off limits and the penalty is a mind wipe, which is soon performed. Sabrina is dumped on Shinji's doorstep as he returns from her place. There's just one thing. The mind wipe didn't work. She remembers everything, and the emotions soon overwhelmed the two and they began kissing once more. Now seemingly fully cemented as a couple, Shinji and Sabrina still try to keep things on the down low until everything can be hashed out with Lilandra. She's not too willing to talk things out, but once more Shinji takes full responsibility for what happened and admits that he wanted to break up with Lilandra, which allows her to dump him and gain back a little bit more confidence. Before anything else can happen, the trio are attacked by a giant jackal-like creature. The girls work to subdue the beast and go tell Hilda about the attack and what they found out about the mana tree. Hilda admits to knowing about the jackals, as this wasn't the first attack, but the mana tree sounds a little fantastic, in that it seems like complete and utter fantasy that the tree would be dying. She doesn't outright dismiss Sabrina and Lilandra's claims, but she doesn't believe them either. Back at the Agami home, Shinji tries to talk Kenichi into reforming the Four Blades to avenge their parents' death. Shinji doesn't want to attack the queen or anything, just try to get the information out. But to Kenichi, it's just too dangerous, and even then, they still have no idea what exactly it was that Queen Celis was trying to hide from their parents. On the plus side, though, Sabrina and Shinji are now fully comfortable to walk through the halls of Greendale High as a couple, much to the chagrin of every eligible girl in the school, and Harvey, who immediately breaks up with Amy, not seeing the point of learning to be a good boyfriend if he can't win Sabrina back. Right now, he just wants to be alone. Gwen actually consoles Amy, who explains why it is she's so focused on Harvey to begin with.
Basically, when Amy was younger, she needed some heavy-duty orthodontics, and Harvey came to her defense when she was constantly being bullied at school. And while that is understandable, it doesn't change the fact that as soon as those braces came off, Amy became a total diva.
Meanwhile, in the magic realm, Hilda has a meeting with Queen Celis. She wonders if the jackal attacks may be related to any stress that's undue on the queen for ruling the realm. The queen starts to open up, only for it to be suddenly interrupted by a jackal crashing into the atrium. Celis mysteriously seems unable to attack as Hilda manages to fight the creature off, which begins to arouse Hilda's suspicions as the creature is apparently taken away for research purposes. Back in Greendale, Sabrina meets up with Lilandra, who's still not entirely trusting of her, so Sabrina decides to explain her history and how it is she came into the custody of her aunts Hilda and Zelda.
Okay, so in most versions of the Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Sabrina is the product of a relationship between a male witch, or a warlock, and a human woman. Eventually, the parents wind up getting divorced. Now that holds true here, except in those other versions, the divorce is somewhat amicable, and there's some other reason as to why Sabrina can't live with her mother. It usually has to do with the fact that a mortal living in the magic realm winds up turning to stone, I believe. However, this is a little different in the sense that once Sabrina developed powers of her own, her mother just mysteriously vanished. Instead, this indigenous woman appeared in the Spellman home to take Sabrina to live with her aunts Hilda and Zelda. Now, understand this. I can't say this for certain, but given the Magic Realm's proclivity for mind wipes in this series, I think you can do a little bit of the math as to what happened here.
Sabrina also spills the beans on Shinji's family and his desire to revive the Four Blades. This leads Lilandra to suspect the idea that maybe the Four Blades found out about the condition of the mana tree. The two attempt to broach the subject with Shinji as the Magical Charm School class prepares for a field trip to the undersea city of Melusina. However, he's just too gung-ho about possibly reviving the Four Blades to properly listen. Shinji manages to settle down enough for Sabrina to perform a special water-breathing spell on both he and Lilandra, as well as several other classmates, which impresses her instructor, as the spell is very advanced. The class is given a tour of Melusina by the mayor, named Ebb, but soon Sabrina, Lilandra, and Shinji have wandered off, thanks in part to Lilandra being distracted by the varieties of undersea flora. Soon the trio find themselves in a cave with illustrations of the mana tree on the wall. It's then that the painter of the work, a merman named Narayan, swims forward to explain that this is all part of a Melusian prophecy. Narayan begins hitting things off with Lilandra as he gives the trio a tour of the real Melusia, trying to be careful due to an increase of sea monster attacks in the vicinity. He shows off some more paintings he made in an unauthorized area and explains that he's had an impending sense of dread recently. This in turn allows the Twitter page of Lilandra to explain what she and Sabrina found out about the mana tree. Shinji overhears this and begins to indeed theorize that this was the catalyst for the Four Blades formation to begin with. This inspires Narayan to agree to not only restart the Fourth Blades, not only for his sake, but also Lilandra's. However, before any of that can happen, the group must reunite with the class, with Lilandra promising to come back to visit Narayan as much as possible.
You know, it's great that Lilandra's been able to move on from Shinji and everything, but at the same time, I can't help but wonder that the longer this series goes, Narayan is eventually going to wind up becoming another love interest for Sabrina.
Lilandra does in fact pay many more visits to Melusia, and because of that she has to constantly call upon Sabrina to perform the water-breathing spell. Knowing this is overly taxing, the two agree to look into a spell that would temporarily allow Narayan to walk on land. The problem is that transformation spells of that nature are super advanced and take so much magic that it's just easier for them to be permanent. Salem himself points out that it took a combined 7 witches and warlocks, including Queen Celis, to turn him into a cat. Further complicating things, it's Four Blades today again, which has put Lilandra, Shinji, and Sabrina all at ill ease now that they know the truth behind the holiday. Still, Shinji gives the okay for the girls to have a little fun and hang out together for the first time in a while, which comes to an end when Lilandra wants to go see the Melusian celebration with Narayan. However, when Lilandra takes a little too long to return, Sabrina and Shinji go in after her. They find Narayan, who says that Lilandra was grabbed by a sea creature, and the four are first to combine their magic to drive it away. Afterwards, Shinji is so impressed by the might of the combo magic to officially call for the reformation of the Four Blades, and work in the background to slowly reveal what is happening to the mana tree. They'll bide their time so as to try to win people over to their side. Still, Sabrina knows this must be kept a secret not only for her safety, but also for Hilda's. That being said, the truth must come out at some point, and thus the Four Blades are reborn.
And that concludes the second volume of the Sabrina the Teenage Witch manga. How was it? Well, I do think this was a big improvement from the first volume. I think there's some really good world building and foreshadowing going on here. I mean, with the whole Four Blades mythos and the idea that there's something infecting the magic realm and turning it against the world of good does seem pretty cool and interesting. I think it's really taken things in a new direction that I honestly want to see a bit more of. And, you know, to be honest, there aren't a lot of dead spots in this. I mean, the previous volume was really repetitive. I thought, you know, there was like 4 or 5 issues in a row that was Sabrina trying to choose between Harvey and Shinji. It just got, you know, a little tiresome after a while. And there weren't, like I said, there weren't any dead spots in here. There wasn't any like goofy stories of Salem trying to write a best-selling novel or anything like that. Just I mean, there was a bit where he was hosting a poker night, but it was a short story of about only 3 pages, so it really didn't do much to anything, so it was easily just skipped. And overall, the artwork is pretty decent. I think it's a lot better, again, than the first one, where we don't have Sabrina walking around in a tube top and hot pants at a Halloween party. So, again, it's a little bit better. I think it's blending the idea of the Archie comics world and the world of manga a little bit better. That being said, why is this in grayscale? I mean, I get the idea of trying to get the manga feeling with this. Manga is traditionally in black and white, but then why was the first volume in color? I mean, comic fans are sticklers for things like this. Like, having one volume in color and the rest all in grayscale or black and white, just, it feels weird. It's too much of a tonal whiplash. I think it should either A, all have been in color, or all have been in black and white. Like, black and white isn't bad, or grayscale, I should say. It's not bad. I'm not against it. Just, again, consistency would help. And I gotta kind of poo-poo a characterization of Harvey, and to a lesser extent Shinji, in this. The fact that, we waited like 3/4 of the first volume for Harvey and Sabrina to get together, and then literally like in the beginning of the second volume they're broken up, and they've barely dated. Like, we only saw them go out on like a couple of dates, and then immediately like Harvey's all, oh, I don't think I'd actually be a good boyfriend. Like, the whole point of the first volume was that you were learning to be a good boyfriend. It just really kind of schemes is stupid. And like I said, to a lesser extent, Shinji falls into this as well, where he's in a happy relationship and he just stupidly throws this all away for no real reason. I mean, I think it's sort of hinted at when he's on his date with Sabrina that, oh, maybe he is getting a little nervous about, oh, I've been dating this girl for over a year, but at the same time, it's like, you haven't had any indications of that right up until now. So it just feels like, again, you're doing it for shock value. Still, overall, this was, like I said, a definite improvement over the first volume, which I really didn't like that much. This is a real step up. I'm going to give Sabrina the Teenage Witch Manga Volume 2 a B. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Remember, you can help support my channel at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcatproductions. There, you can request a trade to be put in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box. Also, remember, like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.